G'day, everybody, and welcome to another adventure of the biblical cinematic universe. Today, I give you the Ten Commandments. Not the Cecil B. DeMille Ten Commandments. Not the original silent film by Cecil B. DeMille, The Ten Commandments. Not the Prince of Egypt. Not Exodus, Gods and Kings. And definitely not the Ten Commandment musical with Val Kilmer. No, today I'm giving you the Ten Commandments TV miniseries from around 2004, 2005 on ABC. What to say? Okay, let's get into it. I want to get into so. This was a TV miniseries on a TV budget. It was done by Robert Helmy Jr. and Sr., who had done a lot of TV miniseries during that time period. They also did a Noah's Ark one that I'll be reviewing soon. So they decided that they wanted to do this Ten Commandments story. So in this version of the story, it's divided into two parts. It was over 2 nights. And the first part, the first hour and a half, is your Moses and the 10 plagues of Egypt, all the way leading up to the Red Sea story. And that part of the film is the word I'm going to use is generic, it feels like. They don't get into a lot of depth in terms of the character arc with Moses versus Ramses. In this version of the story, Moses has an Egyptian brother, but he's the son of a pharaoh princess. So he's not like the next in line to the Prince of Egypt, and he doesn't become an overseer or anything. He's just a noble blood, consider quotation of noble blood of the Egyptians, but he's not like next in line or anything. And so he has this Egyptian brother, but it's not the Egyptian brother he has. Ironically, interestingly enough, is not Ramses, who's going to be the next pharaoh. So that's one issue: is that there's no connection of these two characters or conflict. The other one is that in this version of the story there is not that conflict. And then the next is that Moses is just, I find that Doug Ray Scott, who plays Moses in this, I guess he's done one of the Mission Impossible movies. I don't really like him as Moses. I find that he seems to be like very like this. I'm Moses. Let my people go. And it's not even like let my people go like the Charlton Heston character. It's more like, I'm very serious. Why? And he's just grumpy, and he kind of like he's not someone that you would really can enjoy as Moses. He almost becomes very villainous in some ways in terms of just the way he is presented as a character, I find. So the first half is that, and it's just very, very generic, I found. So you're kind of like going like, okay, you're not telling me anything new. You're not giving me a new version. The second half is the wilderness story. So what they do is they took liberties with the Bible story in the sense of like, basically, there are biblical stories from the Exodus story, but they're stories that kind of are juggled out of place in terms of like, so you have the Red Sea, and traditionally in most Ten Commandment movies you go straight to the Ten Commandments, and like they go to the mountain where he has the Ten Commandments. You have the golden calf, the Ten Commandments, and then the movie kind of ends with the renewing of the Ten Commandments. In this movie, it's an hour and a half of them kind of wandering in the wilderness, and they fight the Amalekites. There's some little subplots of like a woman who has an affair. There's some of the rebellion going on, and then it finally, after an hour and a half, leads to the the actual scene where they get to the mountain and the Ten Commandments. And yes, they are biblical stories in terms of like, yes, he had to throw down rebellions or the people complained and all that. But the way dramatically these characters are portrayed, you really are like, wait a minute. If in the first part, I'm like, why did they hate Moses? And then later on, I'm like, why do I like Moses? Like, I mean, they're trying. I get their point was to try and portray Moses as this conflicted, like, okay, I'm doing the right thing, but it's at the cost of all my family members and everything else I love, so I have to give up everything on me in order to lead these people. But it just at one point, just to give you context, the best scene in this movie is a scene where he says to the people, if you want to be free people, you got to start thinking like a free person, and you're still thinking like slaves. That's the only scene that I really thought was the best scene in the movie. The worst scene in the movie is when Joshua is sort of sitting on the dirt, and he's presented as a passive person in this movie for some reason, and he kind of gives them the story that you might have heard before, where it's like Joshua says, "No, I will trust the Lord," and you're thinking, "Oh, that's good. He actually trusts the Lord as opposed to being complaining like the other people." And he says, and Moses stood like, ha ha ha, and he jokes with him. He's like, there was a first person who, like, there's a flood coming, and he sent him a camel, and then he says, then the guy was on the roof, and then you've heard this variations of the story, and then he's on his roof, and God sends someone to like take a boat, by, and the person says, no, I'll be okay, and then finally he dies and goes to heaven. It's like, why didn't you do something? He says, well, I sent you all these people, and he's trying to prove to them that you should, pick up your sword. And Joshua's like, no, that still doesn't sound right. And so he grabs him by the head, shoves him to the ground, and sort of beats the crap out of him. And then sort of walks away, provokes Joshua to pick up a sword and and attack him. And says, "I am the Lord's anointed. You don't touch me." And then Joshua, I guess, gets the courage to pick up a sword first, and he becomes a great warrior. I don't know. There's a lot of griping in this movie and complaining, and here's the problem. Yes, a lot of these stories are in the Bible, but they kind of miss the heart of the Bible. So you do have a scene where, like, yes, okay, they're calling it adultery, and okay, they're going to stone the woman who is caught in adultery, and the man who was caught in adultery. But it's unlike the Jesus film where Jesus kind of goes like, "For he first sin cast the first stone." No, Moses casted the first stone, and it just feels like it misses the heart of who the character of Moses is, even from a biblical perspective. And it's just very depressing because while there are stories in the Bible in terms of like the people of God being judged for their sin and all that, it's not a movie that's kind of a real downer. So they get to the golden calf thing, and then, spoiler alert, for a movie based on the Bible, they get to the golden calf story, and then after the golden calf, it's unlike the most movies where they just kind of like the earth opens up and it's the wrath of God. It's like, no, go and kill your brothers. Okay, that's in the Bible, but the way it's portrayed is just so brutal, and you're like just going like, this guy's a madman, because they even show like kids. I mean, what do you? They show these kids, and they're like, well, they were the children of the prisoners or the people who rebelled against God, so they got to go too. And that's near the end of the movie. And then the movie ends with Moses after he goes up to gets to get the Ten Commandments again for the second time, and then he's all like, oh yeah, you know what? We'll be in the desert as long as you guys need to learn God giving you the way. And then kind of says this, and 40 years passed. So it's like, okay, really? And then would I recommend it? So, point being, would I recommend this film? Absolutely not. I would say that the chronological order is Ten Commandments, especially with it being a 3-hour film. It's not like much shorter than the real 1950s Ten Commandments movie. So I'd go with Ten Commandments, the 56 version. If you're a film buff like me, I'd go with the 23 version. And then I'd go with Prince of Egypt. And then even underneath that, Exodus: Gods and King is a much more fun movie in terms of a different interpretation of the movie. The only recommendation I have for this movie is, from a film standpoint, the 20-minute sort of summary of how they made it was kind of interesting. And this was in a $5 bin at Walmart, and it included several other old Bible movies that are from like the 40s and 50s and stuff that are actually pretty good, and some of them are pretty cool, and some of them are not so great. But in a $5 bin with one, two, three, four, five, six other movies, yeah, it's worth $5. Or 9 movies, it says here. So, in a $5 bin, it's worth it. And if you were to see Ten Commandments, the miniseries by itself in a Walmart bin, it's not worth it. I'm going to give this movie, from a movie standpoint, 3 out of 10. Sorry, guys. 3 out of 10. There was a lot of good cinema in it. There was a lot of good extras and action scenes. It was slightly interesting to see stories from the Exodus story that are not in other versions of the Bible. But it's a really downer of a movie, and there's more enjoyable Bible movies. Even Noah's Ark, which took a lot more liberties with the Bible story, and this is again the TV miniseries, not that our Fonsky version. It was still all fun. This is just a kind of a downer of a movie. Anyways, so I hope you enjoyed my little review, and we'll be doing a lot more cool reviews. We will get to the 50s, 10 minutes, and everything else later, and we'll also be doing some of the other biblical movies. Until then, you've been watching the Biblical Cinematic Universe.